Have you ever wondered what secrets lie hidden in the heart of a deserted forest? Our tale begins in the darkened depths of an abandoned woodland, known only as the deserted forest, an untouched realm where the trees stand tall and foreboding, gnarled branches intertwining to form an impenetrable canopy, their leaves whispering untold tales in the wind. A place where the silence is so profound, it's as if the very air holds its breath, amplifying the mystery that shrouds this place. This forest, shrouded in mystery, has been the subject of countless tales, each more chilling than the last. The local townsfolk speak in hushed tones about the eerie calm that pervades the forest, a silence so deep, it sends shivers down the spine of the bravest souls. They tell stories of strange happenings and inexplicable events that have occurred within its confines. Some speak of lost time, of entering the forest at dawn and emerging at dusk, with no recollection of the passing hours. Others recount tales of strange lights seen dancing between the trees, of unrecognizable sounds echoing in the dead of night, of shadows that move of their own accord. And then there are the disappearances. Countless explorers who ventured into the forest never to be seen again. Their last traces, footprints leading into the forest, swallowed by the thick undergrowth. The forest keeps its secrets well, giving no clue as to their fate. Yet despite the chilling tales and warnings, the forest draws people in, like a moth to a flame. Its enigmatic presence, the promise of untold secrets just waiting to be discovered, lures the curious and the brave. As the sun sets, the forest whispers stories of its own, stories that send chills down the spine. The question remains, are you brave enough to uncover the mysteries of the deserted forest? But remember, once you step into its shadowy depths, you may never come back the same. Our tale begins with an intrepid explorer, drawn to the forest by its chilling allure. A man of courage and curiosity, our protagonist was no stranger to the thrill of the unknown. His heart, a compass guided by the magnetic pull of uncharted territories, led him to the eerie silence of the deserted forest. The forest, a labyrinth of ancient trees and shadowy paths, was a mystery waiting to be unraveled. Its silence whispered tales of forgotten times, and its wind carried echoes of unseen presences. With each step, the explorer delved further into this world untouched by human hands. The scent of damp earth and the rustling of leaves underfoot became his constant companions, as the forest revealed its secrets to him. Our explorer, though brave, was not immune to the creeping unease that the forest stirred within him. The further he ventured, the more he felt the forest's unseen eyes watching him. The trees, once majestic, now loomed over him like silent sentinels, their branches reaching out like gnarled hands in the dim light. The forest's beauty, which once captivated him, started to take on a more sinister aspect. As dusk fell, the forest's whispers grew louder, its shadows darker. The explorer felt a chill wind cut through him, a foreboding sense of dread enveloping him. He could not shake off the feeling that he was not alone, that something was lurking in the depths of the forest, watching, waiting. His fascination with the forest was slowly giving way to a primal fear, a fear that said he was trespassing in a world he did not belong. Yet, he pressed on, driven by a desire to uncover the truth, to conquer the fear that gnawed at him. He was a man of courage, after all, a man who dared to venture where others feared to tread. But little did he know, his curiosity would lead him into a terrifying ordeal. The deeper he ventured, the more unsettling the forest became. As our explorer delved into the heart of the woodland, the air grew dense, the silence punctuated by a symphony of peculiar sounds. The ancient trees whispered secrets to each other, their leaves rustling in an eerie, rhythmic dance. Suddenly, a fleeting shadow darted across his peripheral vision. His heart pounded in his chest, his breath hitched. Was it a trick of the light? Or was something lurking in the undergrowth, watching him, tracking his every move? He shook off the feeling, attributing it to the tricks a lonely mind plays when surrounded by an uncanny solitude. Continuing his journey, he could not shake off an unnerving sense of being watched. Each crunch of leaves under his boots, each snap of a twig, seemed to echo back at him, as if the forest was mimicking his moves. The shadowy figures of the trees appeared to shift and sway, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal hands. Then came the sounds, unusual, alien and strikingly distinct from the regular hum of the forest. A low growl here, a high-pitched whine there, the rustle of leaves that seemed too deliberate, too purposeful. The forest was alive, not with the familiar melody of nature, but with an ominous, haunting tune that sent chills down his spine. The explorer, usually so composed, felt a creeping dread clawing at his courage. His pulse quickened, his palms grew clammy. He was no stranger to the wilderness, but this forest, this deserted, forsaken patch of woodland, was unlike anything he had ever encountered. It was as if the forest itself was a sentient being, watching, waiting, closing in. With every step he took, every breath he drew, the forest seemed to close in on him. The trees leaned closer, their whispers growing louder, their shadows darker. The sense of foreboding was palpable, the tension almost unbearable. The explorer, trapped in the heart of the forest, found himself at the mercy of its unsettling mysteries. The forest held its breath, and then the unthinkable happened. The tranquility of the deserted forest was suddenly tainted. The air, once filled with the faint rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl, was now heavy and silent. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath, anticipating the horror that was about to unfold. Our explorer, caught in the heart of this ominous silence, felt a chill crawl up his spine. A shroud of dread hung in the air, its icy fingers grazing his skin, setting his nerves on edge. His heart pounded in his chest like a war drum, echoing the primal fear that coursed through his veins. Then the whispers started. A soft murmur at first, barely distinguishable from the rustling leaves, but soon they grew louder, more insistent. Voices that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Their words indecipherable, their tone chillingly malevolent. Each whisper was like a cold breath against his neck, making the hairs stand on end. He spun around, his eyes darting in every direction, searching for the source of the eerie voices. But all he saw was the endless expanse of trees, their gnarled branches stretching out like skeletal fingers reaching for him. His breath came in ragged gasps, his pulse thundering in his ears, drowning out the whispers. Suddenly, a formless shadow loomed before him, an unseen entity, its presence as tangible as the cold dread that filled the air. It was everywhere, and yet nowhere. It was the darkness that lurked in the corners of his vision, the cold chill that made his blood run cold, the whispering voices that echoed in his head. His instincts screamed at him to run, to escape the terrifying encounter. And so he did. He turned on his heels and ran, his footsteps echoing through the silent forest. But no matter how fast he ran, the chilling presence was always right behind him, its icy breath hot on his neck. The explorer ran, but there was no escaping the terror that the forest had unleashed. The once tranquil forest had become a living nightmare. Its every whisper, every shadow, a chilling reminder of the terrifying encounter. Just when he thought it was the end, something unexpected happened. Our explorer, on the brink of despair, stumbled upon an old weather-beaten cabin, hidden away in the dense foliage. Its wooden planks worn and moss-covered. The cabin was a silent testament to the forest's age and the secrets it held close. Inside, he discovered an old dust-covered journal. Its pages were yellowed with age, the ink faded but still legible. As he leafed through the brittle pages, he realized that the journal belonged to another traveler, one who had met the same fate as him, lost in the labyrinth of this deserted forest. The journal entries were filled with descriptions of the forest, its beauty, its tranquility, but also its isolation. The writer revealed that he too had encountered the spectral entity. He wrote about the fear and the desperation, the hopelessness of the situation, and the realization that he would never escape the forest's confines. But as our explorer continued to read, a remarkable revelation unfolded. The spectral entity was not a malevolent spirit, but the spirit of the lost traveler himself. He had succumbed to the forest's desolation, and his spirit was forever bound to the wilderness, doomed to wander the eternal green maze, lost and alone. The journal's last entry was a plea for understanding, for sympathy. The lost traveler had not intended to scare or harm anyone. He was simply a lost soul, trying to make contact, trying to share his story, his plight. In the heart of the deserted forest, he had not only faced his fears, but also uncovered a tragic tale of a fellow explorer. The forest was not a place of horror, but a solemn reminder of a lost soul's journey. The spectral entity was not a creature of horror, but a tragic figure, a symbol of the human spirit's struggle against despair and isolation. The deserted forest was not just a place of mystery and fear, but also a place of empathy and understanding.